Like always, today's episode is brought to you by our amazing sponsors, Gluten-Free Diet Water, Premium Junk Clothing, Williamson Wines, and Good Dudes Coffee. Gluten-Free Diet Water. Stay hydrated with a refreshing twist, perfect for those health-conscious listeners. Premium Junk Clothing, for those who love to express their unique style with high-quality fashion pieces. Visit premiumjunkclothing.com and use code EverydayGSD15 at checkout. Williamson Wine, natural artesian wine from Napa and Sonoma. And last but not least, Good Dudes Coffee, veteran owned by former Navy SEAL Josh Bridges, and where every cup is brewed with passion and dedication to quality. Visit their website at gooddudescoffee.com and use discount code EverydayGSD10 for an exclusive offer. Thanks to our sponsors for supporting the show, and now let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the Everyday GSD podcast. Today's special guest is Karl Sexton. Did I say it right?
You did, Karl Sexton.
Because I said Saxton the other day when we met, and then you explained to me actually what your last name means.
Right. Sexton is Irish and English kind of background, but it's a caretaker of a graveyard.
As opposed to the
sextant.
The navigational tool that I had to learn when I was in the military that I didn't know how to pronounce properly because I was like, that's cool. He's named after a navigational tool. Okay, I digress. Let's get into this. 31-year retired Green Beret, Chief Warrant Officer for CWO4, as we would say. You went in the military in 1989. You got out in 2020. I'm going to throw this out there, even though you did not necessarily ask me to do that or want me to, because obviously as a former Green Beret, and do you say former Green Beret or you still say Green Beret? You don't care, do you? You're so fucking laid back. I love it. I want to just mention this. You did 8 combat tours, and that's I'm going to do some fast math. At an average tour, you were 6 months in. That's 180 days per tour. If you multiply that out, that's 1,440 days. That's like almost 4 years of being in a combat situation or a wartime situation, which is absolutely impressive. So happy that you're alive and here telling us some amazing stories. But most importantly, in 2020, when you retired, you started K7, which is an ammunition component manufacturing distribution company. And I asked you, and you're the CEO, obviously, and the founder. I asked you where K7 came from, and I didn't know you had 6 siblings, all with the name that starts with K, so that's where you came up with K7. I was thinking something way different than that, so I thought that was pretty cool. Again, you sell ammo all over the world, lots to South America and in the Pacific. You have 3 amazing kids, teenage daughters, and a beautiful wife. And in the studio for the very first time, we have a service dog, and his name is Utah. We'll make sure he gets on the camera at some time today. And I think it's pretty cool. He was presented to you by the former president, Donald J. Trump, which I think is just super cool. I know there's a whole story behind that, and we might dive into that. But first, I want to say thank you so much because you are a true everyday GSD person in your military career and taking your military career and going into the civilian world. After retiring of 31 years in the military, you could have said, I'm not going to do anything else. I'm chilling. I've done enough. I'm just going to sit back, enjoy my kids and my beautiful wife in this beautiful town that I won't name that you live in. And you can talk about that if you'd like, but I don't want to tell everyone where you're at. And instead you said, you know what, I'm going to open up a business. And then you started learning about ammunition at a different level than you learned about it in the military. And then you said, I'm going to everyday GSD and basically be the best manufacturer of ammunition and components and sell all over the world.
That's correct.
That's correct. I love it.
That's a great summary.
Yeah.
He's too modest.
I don't know that you even need me here.
Oh, I love it. I love it when we get people in here. They're like, yeah, cool. You nailed it. Well, shit, the show's over. Let's go down to the street and have some. Let's go down the street and have some drinks.
Let's go pop off some rounds.
Let's go pop off some rounds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yes. So I'm originally from Indiana, born in northern Indiana, just north of Auburn, and lived in Indiana till 1979. For my fellow Hoosiers, in 78 and 79, big blizzards both years. And so my family beat feet south to Florida. So I was in Florida, and I went to high school in Florida. And
Where in Florida?
Bradenton, Florida.
Okay.
And I went to Manatee High School, the Hurricanes.
The Hurricanes. Right on.
And I joined the Army actually my junior year of high school. I joined the Army and I went to basic training my junior summer.
Okay, pause right there. So you're a junior in high school and you're like, you know what, I want to be Rambo, or you're like, I just want to go in the Army. I want to be in the armed forces, and the Army recruiter was the closest one next to 7-Eleven. How did that happen?
Well, essentially, I knew I was going to join the military. My father was in the military. My brother was in the military. A fairly rich history of military service in my family. And I knew I didn't have the real opportunities to go to university, for financial considerations. So the military was going to be the thing that I would do. So I was different though. I joined the Army. My family was all Navy.
Okay.
But I was a black sheep who went Army, and yeah. So I wanted the GI Bill.
Right.
I wanted to try and go to college, and at the time, I had the idea of studying physics and getting a degree in physics when I was young, and I still am fascinated by physics, and that's kind of what I have as a hobby.
Right.
Yeah.
So you end up, you're 17 years old.
Yeah, I was 17.
So did you I'm trying to remember. You need a waiver at 17.
Yeah, I had to have my parents sign a waiver
Yeah.
for me to go to basic training.
Right.
But they did that.
And you went to basic training where?
Fort McClellan, Alabama. It's closed down now.
Right.
But yeah, Fort McClellan, Alabama. And it was great. And
what did you think you wanted to do when you went? You're in basic training, which I went to basic training when I was 21, so I was a few years older than you. But like, you're running around getting yelled at. Did you already have an idea what you wanted to do when you were going into basic training, or you're like, back then you're like, I'm just joining the Army and let's figure this out?
It was based on what unit was closest, and there was a military police unit out of Tampa, Florida. So the 810th MP company. So I was like, yeah, MP sounds fine. I'll do that. So that's G14 classified. I tried to keep that part of my military resume hidden, but yes, I started out as a military policeman and was assigned to the mighty 810th. Out of Tampa, Florida. So I deployed to Desert Shield, Desert Storm with the 810th as well.
Okay, so I'm going to digress for a minute. So because we have a mutual friend who was on the show, Jeremy Miller, who was a former Green Beret, and I forget how many years he did. Doesn't matter, but he talked about that he actually wanted to go in the Army band.
Oh, outstanding!
Yeah, that's what he went in the Army thinking, because the Army band is like badass, right?
That's legit.
Yeah, it's legit. And he's a music guy, and then I guess he was thinking that maybe he wasn't going to make it. And he was sitting in a room and he saw this video about try out to be a Green Beret, or I don't remember what the evolution was. And him and his buddy were like, we should try that in case we don't make the band. I still think to this day that's a hilarious story. I was like, so you didn't make the band and you became a Green Beret. All right,
that's perfect.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. So you do Desert Storm, and then you come back from Desert Storm, and at what point are you like, I'm not using a GI Bill, I'm going to just keep re-enlisting, and then I'm going to be a Green Beret?
So when I got back from Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and it was tough, it was a unique experience, but I loved it, and I did well in it, and I really enjoyed my unit and the folks I worked with, and we were attached to the 82nd Airborne Division, and at the time I thought, that is just ultimate, 82nd paratroopers, and so when I got back, I was ready to go on active duty at the time. Yet my father and my oldest brother, they kind of talked to me and said, "Hey, listen, at least do 1 year of college, and then if you still feel the same way, then go on active duty." So I was like, okay. I listened to their counsel, and I went and did a year of college at the community college, and wasn't my thing, wasn't where I wanted to be.
And how old are you about this time? Approximately
19,
20? Yeah.
19.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I went back to the recruiter and I said, hey, put me on active duty. Well, at the time, post Desert Shield, Desert Storm, they were downsizing the military drastically, from somewhere 880,000 down to 440,000. So kit cutting.
Wait, what was it? Tell me those numbers again.
If I remember right.
Yeah, approximately.
The Army was about 880,000 strong back then.
Wow.
Late 80s, early 90s. And then post Desert Shield, Desert Storm, I believe they had a mission to cut it down to like 440,000. And so since I had all of my time on active duty, even though I was a reservist, but you have your active duty for basic and AIT, and then the time I spent in Iraq for Desert Shield, Desert Storm, I had over 12 months of active duty service, so I was considered prior service. So I couldn't enlist. I was not allowed to enlist. There was no option for me. So there's a couple 18 to 24 months where I always mess up the timeline, but just suffice to say I was out and about.
Yeah.
Doing whatever I could. I worked at Camp Windshape, Truett Cathy's camp in Rome, Georgia. I went to Alabama for some more military training. I just went wherever I could to get food and lodging and a little bit of money. So, but ultimately, that kind of ran out of time. So I went back to my reserve unit. First Sergeant Engel was our first sergeant. Great guy, Vietnam vet. He passed away a few years ago, but just a phenomenal human being. Oh, yeah, to Gary. He was the man. But I talked to Gary and I say, hey, Top, like, I got no place to live. I got no job. Having some difficulty. So he moved me into the reserve hall, and I kind of did odds and ends there, and then he put me on active duty for all sorts of training. But ultimately,
and at this time, you're a reservist still.
I was a reservist.
Okay,
yep.
correct.
Living in the reserve hall.
Yeah,
sleeping on a cot. Good times. But I applied for the police academy in Manatee County, and I got accepted. And so I ended up going back to Bradenton, and I attended the police academy there. And then after I finished that, I got hired on by Pasco County Sheriff's Office, and I worked there for about 3.5 years as a deputy.
So you're a police officer, or you're a deputy, and you're still a reservist.
Still a reservist.
So you're doing the reservist, the weekend one a month.
Sure.
And then you're 2 weeks a year.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then I was cruising around in my patrol car one day, and Shukart and Gordon got killed in Somalia. And, I don't know.
And that was in 94 or 93? 93. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to have Google check that.
Yeah, we'll have to have check that out.
But yeah, and I remember watching the videos, and I remember at the time it made my blood boil. And I was talking to my sergeant. His name's Hal Copper. Hal, the man. I could tell you tons of stories about Hal Copper, my sergeant when I was a deputy sheriff, because he was just a character.
Is he still around today?
He is, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, tell us one fun story about him. Fuck it.
Well, as a deputy, you get this green straw Stetson.
Yeah.
And nobody wears the Stetson, right? Like, nobody
right.
does. But Hal Copper wore his Stetson. Like, he always had it on. And he would say, there's nothing more intimidating than a deputy sheriff getting out of his patrol car with his Stetson in and a big wad of Red Man in. Like, I love it. I found him intimidating, so it was valid. His statement.
And now we can sit back and laugh and go, "That's some funny shit right there."
It was, but great. But I said, "Hey, Hal, I should do this, man." And he said, "Yeah, you should." So I turned in my badge and gun. I went to the recruiter. I'm like, hey, put me on active duty. He said, we can get you in, but, we're going to reduce you in rank, and you're going to have to reclass. So I reclassed as a 13 Foxtrot forward observer. Yep. And I went to Fort Sill, went back to
And at that point, did you not even care? You're like, doesn't matter what you guys put me in at.
That doesn't matter, because my goal was to go be a Green Beret. So I came in it was September of 96 was when I came back on active duty. I went through forward observer training. I got stationed in Hawaii, show up to Hawaii in December is when I got there of 96. And then I went to selection in May, June of 97. And I was the first time going selection. So I made it through the first time.
Oh, wow. And full disclosure, you and I met at the Special Forces Convention in Indianapolis last year. Mm-hmm. I feel like it was last year.
I think, yeah.
And we did a whole season on Green Berets and Special Forces guys that were at that convention, and I met you, and I met Utah, and I remember you couldn't come on the show then because just the way the whole thing was organized, the timing wasn't right. So I do want to say that because I do want to say thank you for following back up with us a year later and being like, hey, I can come on the show. I can drive 2.5 hours and come to you.
And Darin, being a small business owner as well, like there's times where you just can't step away. And I actually had a booth up there, so we had our ammunition
100%
out there. So
yeah,
and I was doing it. I was grinding, so couldn't fit it in then.
Yeah,
but things are going well, and we're experienced a lot of growth. So I really wanted to come up here and spend some time with you.
No, I appreciate it. And we're going to get into the business side of it after we roll through some of the fun times that got you to where you are today. So now your first time selection, you make it through, which kudos to you. And that's why I wanted to bring up that I met you at the Special Forces Convention, because a lot of you guys, I heard the stories of multiple times trying to do it. So that's an accomplishment in itself. So you make it through, and then what? Then where are you at?
I got assigned to 10th Special Forces Group out of Fort Carson, Colorado, and I went to weapons, so I was a weapons sergeant. So it's the best MOS. My team sergeant used to always say there's only 3 MOSs in the Army. It's 18B, 11B, and wannabe. So
and wannabe.
So
Justin, you don't think that's funny? Yeah, very.
So, anyways, we had a great team. I love being a weapons sergeant. It's the best job in the Army as a team guy and a 18 Bravo on the team. That's the best job in the Army for sure. We did some training, deployed. I think we went to Turkey and trained with some Turkish commandos and Navy SEALs. Great trip. And then my first kind of operational deployment was Joint Guardian in Kosovo as a team guy. And we were Russian liaison control elements, so we were partnered with the Russian Razvekia.
Now, did you learn any Russian or?
No, I went to school for Serbo-Croatian. So, of course, in Kosovo, they speak Serbian and Croatian. So, and I was decent at the time. I mean, but that was a long time ago.
Use it or lose it.
Right. So, I do have a funny story that I have to share.
Let's go.
When we were in Kosovo. So we had a bunch of kids lived in this house next to us. But imagine our house that we lived in, it's got like the concertina wire, and you got gun trucks sitting out front, and ATVs and all that stuff. And it's it's got fence line up and whatnot. But right next door to us was these kids that lived, a big family, Albanian family, and the kids would always come over and play. Well, I was the senior Bravo weapons guy, and then Josh was my junior, awesome dude. Well, they would come and play, and they'd come over and can Josh and Joe play? Can Josh and Joe play? Yeah, we can play. So we come by and we play with them all the time. So good fun. Well, one day it snowed. We're in the house just chilling. And we hear the doorbell ring, and you can look through the cameras, and it's all the little kids from our neighborhood out front, and they're crying, So me and Josh go to check it out, and we're like, "Hey, what's up?" And they explained to us that these kids from the next neighborhood over came over and was like beating them with snowballs. Well, game on. So
I think I like where this is going.
So I just called. So I announced to the whole Special Forces detachment that our neighborhood kids just got. So the whole detachment deployed out, and we commenced a snowball fight that was quite epic. But it didn't just stay in our neighborhood. I mean, we chased these kids all the way into the center of town. I remember one kid going down like William Dafoe in Platoon, like laid out as he's getting beamed in the back with us. But it was good fun. Yeah. And I think afterwards we brought all our neighborhood kids back and like bought them pizza.
Yeah, I was like, and fed them.
Yeah, so good stuff.
Yeah, the good stories of war.
Yes. So of course the big thing that happened while I was there, we did a lot of patrols with the Razvekia, and we won't get into all that, but it's interesting and good times. And the Russians are they're a hardy people. There's a lot to be respected about them. They are an adversary of us, but I just say Trump Trump mentioned in his speech the other day, like you can admire someone and they can still be an adversary,
Right.
And so like you can admire some qualities but I was there in 2001 and of course that's when the attacks happened at 9/11. So we knew that the rest of our career in SF was going to be very different.
Yeah.
And so
Everyone did.
right. So we got back from that deployment in December.
Because 9/11 already happened in September.
It just happened, right.
So 3 months later.
We're back stateside.
Yep.
We all bought Harleys on that rotation. So we did go to Bike Week, which I can't remember what month it was, but we all went up there. It was a good time for Bike Week.
Yeah.
At Sturgis.
Yeah, Sturgis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good times. But yeah, it changed, and we
Because you're stationed in Colorado.
Colorado.
So you guys made the trip. You rode the bikes.
Oh yeah, we rode. the
yeah.
bikes
You didn't trailer the
yeah.
bikes.
Yeah,
I was like,
we
you guys didn't trailer, did you?
Yeah, the team all gave me grief because they had I had the Geezer Glide, so I had an Ultra Electric Glide Classic. The fairings, the stereo, the windscreen.
Justin's like, yeah, good call. You were the smart one.
Yeah,
I got one of those, and I rode it there, and trust me, everyone else was jealous.
Yeah, and it rained.
Yeah, they gave you all shit, but they were jealous as
They
shit.
were jealous.
Yeah.
They had night trains.
Yeah, I'm not going there on my fat boy.
Yeah, they had, and that's exactly what they had: night trains, and they had fat boys. Yeah. They got rain. They were miserable.
Yeah, my buddy rode my night train there, and I'm like, dude, you don't want to do this. So he did it. He did it. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
So I had the Geezer Glide, and I loved it. I don't have it anymore. But yeah, so there was a number of things we did. My detachment did some training missions and then some other unique activities. I'll just put it that way. And anyways, my detachment 051. I know the numbers have changed now. In today's world, it would be 0221, but it was 051 back then. And we got selected as the Advanced Force Operations Team. So
the Advanced Force Operation Team, and just for the listeners, so a lot of people know about, and I'm tell me if I'm jumping ahead. So a lot of people know about 12 Strong. Mm-hmm. They made a movie, and there's a movie and a documentary. I think the movie's called 12 Strong, right? And then they also have an alcohol called
Horse Soldier.
Horse Soldier. Yeah. So that's the advanced team, 12 guys.
Yeah, it was the 5th Group Special Forces Detachment that did advanced force operations into Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, and you were on that same team, but
same mission.
I'm sorry, same mission, but into
Iraq.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and so. I got to take a couple shots across the bow, right? So
yeah. I like when you were telling Jeremy one of the shots across the bow.
You teed it up for me. So, so for all of my 2nd Battalion mates from back in the early 2000s, 5-1 got picked because we were the best team in the battalion. Sorry to you, 5-5. Yeah. Love you, Rick Turcott, but we were better. So, anyways, we got picked. I'm just playing.
Oh yeah, we do it all the time. That's what we do.
And so, anyways, then 5th Group, they went into Afghanistan. They're going against the Taliban, very fanatical group and extremely dangerous mission. But for my Legionnaire friends in 5th Group, you weren't going up against Iraqi armored divisions. So we were the Advanced Force Operation mission into Northern Iraq was a completely different dynamic, completely different enemy and setup. So my team sergeant T4, he's like, hey man, go help develop us more capability, right? So. I find that the Peshmerga have some 82 millimeter mortars, which is a Soviet style mortar. So we police them up and we acquire some mortar rounds and some of the other materials we need to operationalize these mortar tubes. But then I discover that the reticle on the site for the 82s is a 6,000 mil reticle. Well, all U.S. style reticles and plotting boards are based on a 6,400 mil, so 6,400 mils in a reticle, and that's what's on your plotting board as well. And so, and I don't know how to do this math. So I do a encrypted SATCOM shot from northern Iraq back to Colorado to my good buddy, Steve Gurnett, who ended up dying in Iraq years later as a Blackwater guy, to Stevie G. G-Man. He was the man. And I'm like, Steve, you got to go to the university there in Colorado and get with the math department and have them send me some sort of math equation to superimpose this 6,000 mil reticle onto my 6,400 mil plotting board. So he goes to the math department. They send me a couple of things to try out. He SATCOM shots it back to me. And so we work it out. Again, this is not perfect.
Right. Yeah.
But we did a couple of practice shots, and we started to get steel on target, and I had a little sheet of paper. In fact, I have this sheet of paper at my house where I had done a bunch of mathematical equations, and I kept it in my shirt pocket of my BDUs because I would pull it out real quick to do quick calculations to redirect fire. But we decide to do a live mortar raid. So we're gonna go kill some bad guys, right?
Right.
So we
eliminate the target.
Right. And so we go up, we sneak around at night, we get the mortars laid in, bubbled up, we're ready to go. And for the mortar dogs out there, it's a 3-gun spread. Your base gun's your number 2 gun, and you start with the 2 gun, and the other guns follow. So I lay in, I get the number 2 gun up, and my buddy. By the way, our call sign was Flintstone, and so all of us had derivatives of Flintstone. I'm Wilma, by the way.
Yes.
And so Betty was the forward observer, and so I called Betty.
Fucking Flintstones.
Betty and the Wilma and Betty combo is just a deadly combo, right? So Betty gives me some dope, and we bubble up, and I hang the first round on the base gun, number 2 gun, and it doesn't go off. Like it just boom, and nothing happens. So I tell the Peshmerga, I'm like, clear it. Well, none of them want to clear it. They're all scared. So of course, I'm like, well, I'll clear it. So I stomp up to the base plate, pop it out of the base plate, right, and dump, and I catch the round, an 82 millimeter mortar round, and the cheese charge is still smoking. And so I hand it to one of the Pesh, and I'm like, there you go throw it in the ditch over there. So he goes scurrying off down the hill. And so now the base gun is out of the base plate because we just had to unhook it to clear this misfire. So I say, hang it on gun 1. They hang on gun 1. Well, what the Pesh did is there's a collar in your base plate. It's a C collar, right? And that has to be facing to the rear. They had it in the wrong way. It was facing forward, so it didn't lock the knuckle of the mortar into the base plate. So when they hung it on gun 1, the gun popped out of the base plate, and it was a line drive. And as you know, mortars are a high angle fire weapon. Yeah. This is a line drive about 3.5 feet off the ground.
Wilma!
And it blows up right in front of my security squad. Well, literally, because we're going up against an Iraqi armor division, they have a dog-eared counter battery radar. So they're going to see that. So we just waved to an entire Iraqi armor division that, hey, we're right here.
We're right here.
Yeah, here's where we're at. So I say, okay, hang it on gun 3. So, by the way, gun 1 is now rolling down the hill because it popped out of the base plate and is now rolling down the hill. Gun 2, they're still trying to bubble up because we had popped it out of the base plate to clear the misfire. So now I'm hanging on gun 3. And Betty comes back with a left 800, add 1,000, which what that means is we're not even in the right grid square. Like we're way off. Okay, so
that was a benefit. So they didn't know where you guys were.
So anyways, we bubble back up. We make some quick adjustments with my Peshmerga running the mortar tubes, and we hang. And Betty comes back with a more reasonable correction, and we do it, and then we hang fire and do fire for effect, and we actually did hit the target, so it was pretty impressive. Well, as we're putting out the last bit of our mortar rounds, well, here comes the artillery inbound on us, because that, like I said, that dog ear radar has picked us up. Now they're triangulating their fires on us. So we take one far, one short. Next one comes in pretty close, and the sound of hot metal shrapnel going by you, it makes a really distinct sound. It's like zoop, 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 zoop. You know, so you hear it going by, and you're like, okay, so probably time to hit the deck. So we hit the deck, and my team sergeant and I are facing each other, but we're both on our bellies. We're maybe, less than a foot apart, and we're both
on the ground,
all
sprawled out.
And you're trying to like dig your head into the dirt, to get lower as low as you possibly can. and Tony says, "Hey, Karl, might want to check your fire." So I say, "You think?" So yeah, we went ahead and checked fire.
Yeah.
And told him to break it down, and then we did the Monty Python thing of run away.
Yeah.
So we all run away, and so as we're departing,
Utah's listening to the story. He's like, I got you, Dad.
So being the great mortar raid leader that I was, I counted off all of the little Peshmerga off the site, counted them off. They all start going away, and the rest of my teammates and all the Peshmerga are beating feet back towards our rally point. We're going to get back in the trucks, the Hinos, and get away. And there's this little Pesh, and he's carrying like the tube, and it's whooping him. And so as we're running back to the Hinos, this young Peshmerga is struggling, and so I'm like, "Hey man, give me the tube," So he hands me the mortar tube, and I thought he would be a ranger buddy and stick with me, but no. As soon as he handed me the tube, like he took off like a jackrabbit, and I'm watching everybody get smaller and smaller and smaller
as they're going away.
And I'm way behind at this point.
Yeah.
But I ended up making it back up with the team, and then as soon as I got there, of course, Tony was like, "What took you so long?"
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I had a few complications.
But it's funny. We were talking the other day. Obviously, war's not fun. War's not funny. But you no matter when you're doing any operation, you always try to make light with your guys, right? With your team. And when you were saying about like, you're trying to dig your head into the dirt, and you're both facing each other, and you're like making jokes at each other while you're, shit's flying over your heads. Like, it's easy to sit back in a studio and laugh about it, but like at that time, you were making the humor you could. But like, what the fuck, right?
Yeah. I can tell you another one with Betty. We were doing a.
And why were you guys called the Flintstones?
Oh, I don't know. It was
that's what they gave you.
That's what they gave us.
Yeah.
And we just went with it.
But
we were out on a patrol, and my I think it was my sister. My sister had sent me some chocolate chip cookies, Chunky Chips Ahoy, right? And so we're preparing to go.
Chunky Chips Ahoy remembers the type of cookie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And by the way, Betty, you still owe me a batch of those cookies, a box of those cookies. So I got them, and so we're preparing to go out on a patrol, and I set them on the hood of the gun truck, and I tell my teammates, "Hey man, you get yourself a cookie," because I'm a nice guy, right? And then I go back in to like get the barrel from my 50 cal or whatever, and I come back out, and that entire box of Chunky Chips Ahoy cookies is gone.
All of them.
All of them. And you were talking like 25 seconds have transpired. Literally, Brad is choking on cookie crumbles because he shoved like 4 in his mouth, and everybody's laughing, and there's nothing but crumbs left. So okay, that's fine. Well, then we go out on the patrol, and the Razvekia had like Adidas tennis shoes on. And then their uniform were like, I knew from the get-go it was going to be bad because we got like all this heavy kit, and then the Russian Razveki have on tennis shoes. And of course we took off running, right? And so we're running at night down this road. And of course, Betty trips and falls. and I can see him.
Well, yeah, Betty ate all the cookies.
Yeah, because he ate all the damn cookies. So he trips and falls, and I see in the nods, I see him fall, and I know it's him. And so here's my opportunity. And mind, we're on a live patrol with the Russian Razvedki going to set in an ambush on some bad guys, right? Well, I slide in, like I'm coming full force and kit and everything. I slide in and put a knee in his back because he fell on the side of the road. I like slide in and knee him in the back. And I go, that's for eating my cookies, you son of a bitch. and then I take off running and left him on the side of the road. He eventually got up. Though,
Yeah,
yeah, you got to make fun.
But he never ate your cookies again, did he?
I'm sure he did. He's still a conniving, and he owes me a banana split too. But that's a different story.
It's the little things in life.
It's the little things in life. Yeah.
So
So about what time in your where are we at in your career at this point?
Well, so we kind of touched on a little bit of Kosovo. We touched on the initial ops into Iraq.
Yeah.
And then I came back home from that, had some unique life experiences. Don't want to get into all
Don't
that.
need to.
But
that's the best part of the show. It's about you. You can tell us whatever stories you want.
But as it turns out, then I put in my packet to become a warrant officer because at that point, I was starting to get a little long in the tooth. And so when you're an E7, you've been on the team for a little while, like that's when you're going to come on orders to go to SWIC and be in the schoolhouse or something like that. So it's like, no way.
Right.
Like I want to keep deploying and go to combat. So I went to warrant officer training, went right back to the same detachment. So I was a senior weapons guy on 5-1. Did some trains. I came back. I was the assistant detachment commander. On 5-2. I went one door down to 5-2.
Okay.
I ended up going back to 5-1 as the warrant a few years later. But I right back to the same company, Bravo Company, 2nd Battalion.
That's awesome.
And next door on the mobility team.
How great was it when you walk in there and you already know everyone?
Oh yeah, it was just fantastic.
Yeah, you're like, hey guys, I'm back. This is different.
Yeah, that's different.
Right here.
And so then I did a tour in Diyala province after that with 5-2. That was my first deployment as a warrant. And, there was that video of Zarqawi shooting the M249 saw out in the desert. That was Tooele was where that was at. But that was the area that my detachment was at. And we had a unique rotation. Lost the 13th Warrior on that rotation, which was my interpreter for the things that I did. He was an American, a wonderful human being, and a great friend, and he was the 13th Warrior. So to Mo.
I don't know if you can tell us too many stories today. We're going to get drunk if we keep having to host up.
But it was a great rotation with my team, and loved
and
those.
I didn't. What country were you at?
I was Iraq.
That was
we were
Iraq,
in
so.
Diyala province.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah,
and then went back, did some training, and those were real quick because it was 6 months on, 6 months off. So
how many times did you go to Iraq?
So there was the OF1, then there was Diyala. Then I came back again, and that time I was in Baghdad during the surge.
So a handful of times, yeah.
And then I went back again to Baghdad for the surge. So if you count Desert Shield, Desert Storm, five different
times
in Iraq. I spent some time in Iraq, yeah.
Any time in Afghanistan?
No.
And that's why you were kind of making I call it intercompany joke with Jeremy the other day.
Yeah, I took a shot at Jeremy.
Yeah, and I love Jeremy. He's a great guy.
Oh yeah, and I love the Legion. I mean fifth group out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And I mean I have so many great buddies there, and but it's not the originals. It's not 10th group. So love you Legionnaires, but you're not the originals.
Yeah, one of my really good friends is down in the 160th.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He's fucking awesome, and I won't say his name but he does listen to the show, and actually, he sends me text messages, because he's a fucking GSDer all day long, but he'll send me messages with him working out in the morning, and he stopped sending them for like a couple weeks, so I just assumed he was like somewhere gone, doing what he does, and so I sent him a message like, hey man, you fucking safe? You're back? Where are you at? And he goes, oh, I thought I was boring you with my messages. I was like, no man, you need to stay on it. You're fucking GSDing. So he's back at it. When he's in country, meaning in the US, he'll send me messages. So that's how we stay in touch. But yeah, 160th. Shout out to those guys for sure.
Absolutely. Night Stalkers.
Yeah.
So let's see. That kind of wraps up my time there in 2nd Battalion and going to Iraq. Then I went to
during any of this time. Are you thinking that when you get out you want to go into business? Do you have any idea at this point in your career that one day you're going to go into business, or do you even have an idea that maybe one day
and I say this with so much love in my heart. I saw Bruce Parkman and Tony Porterfield stand up a company and do it with Bibeau as the main COO. Yeah, hell yeah, I was going to start my own company when I retired. If those dudes can do it, then I can.
And so what made I love that.
I love Bruce and I love Tony. Those dudes are awesome. And of course, Bibeau is my mentor and one of my heroes. He was my company sergeant major.
And back then, were you thinking ammo?
No,
okay.
I didn't know what it would be because it doesn't matter what it is. You just have to determine what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you're been in and out of Iraq. And now you're in, how many years is this? But 20 years?
Yeah, I had to be over 20 by then.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
And so then walk me through the from there until the time you ended up retiring.
Yeah, well, I was at Army Futures Command at Fort Eustis, and I was a liaison officer there looking at Army future capability, innovation, and things of the like. Development of future capability. But I had a buddy of mine that dropped his retirement packet, fellow CW4, and I was talking to him, and he said, Karl, you will know the exact moment. Like, you will know, right? And so I went to a meeting. It was a higher level meeting, and I was listening to the presentation, and I knew at that particular moment that I was ready to be done.
Right.
So I left that meeting. I went back to my desk and I typed up my retirement packet.
And for the record, I mentioned this at the beginning, but 31 years.
Yeah, altogether, but the reserve time and active
it all
time,
counts, man.
Yeah, 31
it all counts.
years.
So 31 years. So to you, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Right on.
And now let's talk about some everyday GSD shit. Now you get out in 2020 and you start your business in 2020 and you decide it's going to be about ammo. And my question to you, which you already answered, but I want to ask it again because I think this is awesome. Of course you go into ammo. You're a weapons specialist. You have all this information and knowledge of ammunition and weapons. I mean, you've been doing this as your career for 31 years. You're in the special forces, the elite of the military. You're going after bad guys around the world, and it's such a perfect fit to go into guns and ammunition because this is your specialty. And your answer to me was, actually, I didn't think I knew shit about it. Is that what you said? Something like that.
Well, anybody that really advertises that they have expertise in anything, probably.
Because that's what I said. I go, you were an expert in it. You're like, nah.
Yeah, anybody, that spends any time doing something, you would be wary of using the term expertise. In fact, I just completed the gunsmithing course through Sonora Desert Institute. I used my GI Bill and I knocked that out. I mean, I already have a master's degree.
I was saying you have a master's degree.
Right, but I wanted to learn more about ballistics, about ammunition loading. I wanted to learn some gunsmithing techniques and some other neat things that they do.
Did 17-year-old Karl think when he was going in the military that he wanted, because he knew he wanted to go to school and he wanted a GI Bill, did 17-year-old Karl think 31 years later he would be a business entrepreneur and own a extremely successful ammunition?
No, I don't think so.
No, right?
No.
How we evolve.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Hard work, determination, getting after it, knowing what you want to do as the life goes on and you start to change and develop and evolve into a better person, you realize maybe I do this, maybe I do that, and finding that right thing. So you retire from the military.
But Darin, I think there's a point that I need to make, especially for your listeners, because it's an important point, right? So as while I was still on active duty, but leading up to retirement, I studied a lot of things. So I actually looked at a winery in Alabama that was for sale, and I studied horticulture. And
should hook you up with Sam, one of our sponsors.
and
some of the best wine in the country, in the
And
world.
good wine that comes from Alabama, though.
Yeah.
A reason it was for sale, I'm sure.
Yeah, this is Sonoma County. Just for the record, Healdsburg, Williamson Wines. Shout out to him.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a very, very difficult to make high quality wine. Like I would not declare any expertise on it, but I studied it considerably and developed a whole business plan. My wife and I went and toured the place, and I was seriously thinking about it. Right.
And I bet if Sam was here right now, he would tell you, I agree with you.
Yeah. But I ended up not doing that. And then I actually did a whole project on doing a podcast, did the whole budget analysis.
Oh, nice.
How to run a podcast, and very, very appealing. And had some folks, kind of encourage me to do that, but it just wasn't
calling you.
It wasn't
calling you.
No, and
said bang bang was.
well, really, Darin, I thoroughly enjoyed my last job in the Army because I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with academics and cutting edge innovation. I had machine learning and artificial intelligence in my portfolio. Also, quantum computing was in my portfolio, and I liked all of it. But quantum computing and just quantum physics in itself, I find absolutely fascinating. And once we have there are operational quantum computers, but there's a couple things they have to solve to tweak them. But I was fascinated by innovation, right? And I was fascinated with different businesses where there was opportunities for innovation too. And so I started my company Quasar Management as a project management and consulting company, and I did some higher level consulting for some foreign ministries of defense, and in that work. I started to dive into not just ammunition loading, but ammunition manufacturing, but more important than that, supply chain associated with ammunition manufacturing and loading, and understanding the raw materials too. And I think it's important, for consumers of ammunition, not all ammo is the same. You can see 115 grain 9mm.
Not all ammo is the same.
Not all ammo is the same.
Yeah, not all ammo is the same.
Right. And so, when you look at different specifications like SAMI spec or NATO spec or U.S. mil spec, that there's difference in all of them. And SAMI is a nice, safe ammunition, right? And if you load to SAMI spec, you're going to have a nice, safe ammunition. If you load to NATO spec, well, now you're more concerned with not only the performance and the precision measurements of the ammunition, but you're also concerned with the raw materials. So what's the level of purity in the brass?
Right.
What's the level of purity in the jacketing for the lead projectile? And so,
because there's bad ammo out there.
There's bad ammo out there. And then, what's the burn rate of the powder? What is the type of primer that's in it? So I don't make the cheapest ammo on the market. That's not what we do at K7.
But full disclosure, you make a lot of ammo.
We make a lot of ammo. Yes.
I don't know if you want to talk about how much ammo let's not talk about how much ammo you make or you have. How about this, just for the listeners? Your capabilities, if all your machines are running,
mm-hmm.
Okay, let's say they are or they aren't, none of anyone's business. What can you produce in a month?
Capability definitely would be able to cover 5 million rounds a month.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more. If I
5 million rounds a month.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there for the listeners that you're not the guy in a barn with going
But
one round,
but
one round.
but I think it's a great opportunity for me to talk about innovation as well, because really with the types of innovation that my company is looking into and researching, the scalability is quite significant. So I would say that I would probably have capacity beyond that as well,
Right.
simply because of the innovations that we seek to roll out here very soon.
And you sell ammo all over the world.
Yes. I mean, I'm real proud that Senator Braun came down and presented the company with the Export Achievement Award.
And we'll put that because we have a picture of that. We'll make sure that comes up here.
Yeah, because compliance associated with exporting small arms ammunition, you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You have
to follow the rules.
You have to follow the rules, and so people say that a lot of your military experience and leadership it transitions or translates over into the civilian world, and I don't know, probably not as much as what some people think.
So I think for me, in my military experience, I think a lot of the leadership positions I was put in does transfer very well. However, you need to be able to interpret how to translate what translates into the civilian world to civilians.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And one thing that you learn in the military is you read the regs, right? And perhaps maybe very specifically for warrant officers too, like we're the guys that are supposed to read the regs, know the rules, and know how to do special operations that are inherently dangerous right up to the line and mitigate risks the best you can, but accept risks that you can't. And so I think that's been very useful as a businessman. But leadership, like, here's what I would say, leading guys on a mortar raid is one thing, right? Leading a company and meeting payroll every month, that's a completely different thing. It's a completely
because when you're running a team, you're not in charge of the money.
No, not in that type of context. No, but
no. You might have a budget to work with, but you're not in charge of the money. At the end of the day, you're not going to be halfway through the month with a team in Iraq or Afghanistan. It's like, oh, we can't pay you this month.
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
And if you care about the people that work for you, you want to make sure that they get paid every month. And so you got to make sure that sales and efficiencies and everything occur so that you can meet payroll. And for anybody that has started up a business from scratch, like, you're going to have months that it's tough. You're going to have months where you knock it out of the park and you're walking around on cloud 9, but then you start again on the first of the next month.
Yeah.
You got to keep going.
Yeah. So you were saying earlier about, you were getting all this information because you were trying to do a program with Peru prior to you going into business. Is that what it was? Trying to go back from what we talked about.
I did some consulting for Peru. They had some requirements to modernize their factory.
Right.
So I traveled.
You did the homework.
I did the homework. Yeah. And then I ended up recommending them to wait until they figured out the supply chain issues and had a sufficient supply chain to feed a factory with that increased production rate. So, there's a lot more to it than just loading ammunition,
Yeah, I saw the operation.
And
I get
operating the machine. Again, I would say that what makes K7 ammo different is we understand supply chain, we understand manufacturing, we understand assembly and loading, we understand sales, and we know how to integrate all of those different activities with unique, innovative technologies, and to keep it running smoothly, to be able to keep your machines running. Because whenever
Right.
your machine isn't running,
You're not making money.
You're not making money.
Right. And you're working on some stuff right now that we won't talk about. If you can talk about it briefly. So I'll just, if I overstep, we'll cut it out. But right now you're working on some stuff that we will potentially assist and help other manufacturers take their business to the next level through innovation.
Yes.
Did I say that right?
That's
yeah. Because when you explain it to me, like I'd so much love to just run my mouth right now and talk about it, but I know it's still. I mean, it's ready to go, but like obviously when this airs, we want to make sure that it's done properly. But I'm impressed.
Well, and I think that's good, and I think it's another good thing for your listeners too is synchronization. So no matter what you're doing, and if someone's looking at getting into their own business, starting their own business, or just, trying to meet a goal they've set forth, like run a marathon or do a triathlon. But you have to synchronize things, right? Like you have to time it. You have to phase it out. You have to plan it.
You have to build a foundation before you build the first floor.
That's correct. And you have to realize that I made it up in my mind that I was going to do an Olympic triathlon, and I'm like, I'm going to do that.
Just going to do it.
And so I
you didn't go run 200 miles with Jeremy, did you?
No, I did not. But
this fucking guy.
but I laid out a plan and did timing and synchronization, and you do it, and you start out small, and you do this, and then you do your first sprint, and then you do your second sprint, and then you do you work your way up. So I would just encourage anyone. Here's how you get shit done every day. Here's how you get out of bed and keep doing it. Have that long-term plan. Have those phase lines laid out, month, 2 months, 3 months, but have your long-term plan that's at least 5 years out, at least, even longer, and then just start plugging away at it. And it doesn't matter if you have a bad day or a setback, because I'm not on a 12-week plan. I'm on a 7-year plan. Like I'm going there, and I'm gonna make it. There's nothing that's gonna stop.
Nothing's gonna stop K7.
No.
And I love that you just said that, because I have a very good friend of mine. His name is Fritz, and he listens to the show. He when he talks about everyday GSD, he talks about it's a plan, because people say, oh, you have to have goals. It's great, but don't make some stupid goal you can't do, right? You have to set your plan, and you have to go, okay, here's how I need to get to Z. So first I got to get to B, then C, then D, and I can check those off. You don't start at A and go, how come I'm not at Z yet?
Right.
And I know Fritz is listening right now, and he's shaking his head, because in the business and industry he's in, he's very good at what he does, but he also handles his personal life, his life with his wife, his life with his kids, his enjoyment life when he's out snowboarding and he's up on the mountain or skiing, whatever he's doing, he's got a plan, and he's not going to deviate from that, because it's time to, right? It's like, I've got to get up, and I know what I have to do today. I got to do this Monday through Thursday, so Friday I can be off.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Facts.
Yeah. That's why I worked till 10 o'clock last night.
Because you knew we were going to be here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I stayed there and got it done.
Yeah.
Finished the production that I would have done today. I finished it last night. So got the production done.
Yeah. So you don't deviate from the plan because something comes up.
No.
Yeah. That's the true everyday GSD mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the next step with K7 besides, let's talk about the ammo.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I make a lot of 9mm, so
right.
9mm is very popular. I have 115 grain FMJ. I also make a 124 grain FMJ. And then, I also have 9mm and 124 grain CMJ. And, for those of you who don't know the difference between that, CMJ is a complete metal jacket, and the, jacketing, is adhered to the lead using a chemical process.
And that's different than a full metal jacket.
Correct, because the entire lead is encased to include the backside. If you look at an FMJ projectile,
which is full metal jacket.
Full metal jacket, yeah. The backside, you see exposed lead. It's not completely covered. And then a TMJ, which is a total metal jacket, that's similar to the.
You know, some of my listeners are hearing this right now. They go, TMJ, total metal jacket?
Yeah,
I got to call K7 and order ammo now.
So total metal jacket is similar to the CMJ in that the projectile is completely encapsulated, but that is done with a mechanical or machine process where it's pressed. The jacket is pressed onto the lead. So and there's of course all sorts of specialty projectiles as well. But and then I've run some 308. I've run a lot of 223. Run 40 cal as well. 223 has been a great market this year, but as fast as I can make it, it's sold. So gotta increase production there to make more available. So working on that, and once I get all my systems in line, then we'll be able to really scale quickly.
Scale bigger than you are.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the plan. So,
because we got to see the factory, as I'll call it, the factory distribution center, and it's the most ammo I've ever seen in my life. In one spot,
It was a lot of ammo.
it's a lot of ammo.
yeah, you got to have a little bit around.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, what do you suggest for like a gun owner that, let's say a gun owner has got a few guns? What would you say per? I wouldn't say per gun. What would you think the amount of ammo someone should have if they just want to go out and burn rounds, and also for their own safety, for whatever reason, if they think something's not going to go right?
I like the number 2,000.
2,000.
I think you should have at least 2,000 rounds of your, if your 9 mil is your everyday carry or your home defense, and you should have 2,000 rounds. If you got a 357, you should have 2,000 rounds of that. 38, you should have 2,000 rounds, because then you can go to the range and you're not going to be I can shoot 50, 100 rounds, no big deal. If you only have 1,000, then you start shooting.
Then you got 900, 800. Yeah.
You got to have a good cushion. And then really, for the smart consumers, it's a commodity. And it
is.
And when things are rough in the economy, ammo prices go up. So it's a good thing to have. You should stockpile a lot.
Yeah,
And
I will.
Just give us a call.
I know,
we'll square you away.
And I know you're going to do something with the Everyday GSD show.
Yeah. In fact, what we'll do is I'll just set it up for your customers that go visit k7ammo.com. Go visit our store. Put stuff in your shopping cart, and when you're ready to check out your shopping cart, just put Everyday GSD in there, and you'll get a 10% discount on your order.
Boom, new sponsor.
Love it.
Look at that. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
and my
absolutely.
listeners do too. And I know they're going to want to know. I knew they wanted to know how much ammo they should have, and now they know they can get a better deal. And I did want to ask you this though, because I think this is important. Not all ammo is the same.
No,
No.
And we make a quality.
You make a really. You're being modest. You were
Right.
31 years Green Beret, and you were like, "Yeah, I was in the Army." Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
But we make nice ammunition,
Yeah.
and we have precision machines, right? Not all the machines are the same. I know I showed you a few when you were down there on the other day,
Yeah.
but not all the machines are the same. And
No.
and so we're pressing them out on high quality machines that are precision.
And I know there was 8 or so machines in that one little area. How much does one of those machines approximately cost? Just a rough number.
I don't know, it's somewhere around 70, 80, maybe $100,000, depending on
about $100,000. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but,
it's an investment. This is not a backyard business.
No.
Yeah. Anything else we want to talk about K7? Because I do want to bring up Utah.
No.
I do want to talk about the Utah story, which,
Yeah, sure.
and when I say Utah, I mean this amazing service dog that's laying next to you.
He was apparently very hungry.
Well, we got chicken for him.
We got chicken.
By the way, we went to the butcher and got some really good chicken for him, because he eats that. His diet is raw chicken. And Monty, a good friend of mine who was on the show a long time ago, one of our first couple episodes, I believe, he used to feed his dogs raw food before anyone was doing that, I believe, because I was like blown away with his story. I say not before everyone else was doing it. Before there was stores making the dog food, But so you were given Utah, or I should say you earned Utah, or you were I don't even know the right word, but by Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, it was down at the golf course in Florida. Yeah. So, I had a few surgeries when I was on active duty, a couple of injuries here and there over the years. So,
Again, with that modesty.
Yeah.
the
Couple injuries.
So the SOCOM Care Coalition, which are fantastic folks, they call and check up on you every now and again to make sure you're doing okay and if you need anything. So since I retired out of Fort Eustis, my SOCOM Care Coalition rep guy is out of Little Creek.
Little Creek.
So the Navy SEALs. And his office is right there. So, as a retired,
How was it like being rolling around the only Green Beret on the Navy SEAL base?
well, I was up at Fort Eustis.
Yeah, no, I'm just,
but as a retired guy, I'm taken care of out of the Navy SEAL, base. And so, it happened one day. He called to see how I was doing. Well, as the story goes, you don't want to get a race car in the red, right?
Right.
Well, this particular day, I happened to be running in the red, and the phone rings, and it's the SOCOM guy, and so I decided to not lie. I decided
tell the truth.
I decided to answer his question. He said, "How you doing?" And so I gave him a little bit earful, and he's like, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to have somebody call you." And so, a few minutes later, a guy called me. He's a character, and he's like, "Hey, brother, how you doing, brother?" And I was like, okay, this guy's kind of different, but
Please don't tell me it was Hulk Hogan.
No, it wasn't.
Hey, brother. No, continue.
No, it was the Navy SEAL Museum and the Navy SEAL Heritage Foundation.
Heritage, yeah, I'm very familiar with that.
And so the
and
Navy,
shout out to the Navy SEAL Heritage Foundation. They do a lot.
They do a lot, and the Navy SEAL Museum. Beautiful. If you're ever down in Florida, go visit the museum. Wonderful people there. Great displays.
And is that in Pensacola?
Fort Pierce.
Fort Pierce. Okay.
Google. Make sure I said it right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's Fort Pierce. But it's great. And so anyways, they pair veterans, soft. Primarily Navy SEAL guys with
soft special operations forces.
Yeah.
Because I do have listeners that do not know the
Right.
military acronyms, so I wanted to say that because I didn't want people soft. He's soft. He's far from soft.
And that's affirmative on Fort Pierce.
Yes, and that's
Thank you.
affirmative. He goes, and that's affirmative.
Thank you.
You just got promoted to E4.
Thanks. So,
Hey, buddy, look at the camera
yeah,
right here.
there he is. Right.
Hey, Utah, we're talking about you.
So, so they said, hey, what do you think about getting paired with a service animal? I'm like, yeah, okay. So I had to talk it over with my wife and daughters, and we said, well, yeah, we might take a look at it. So it's a long process, maybe 6-8 months altogether. And then they found Utah, and they were like, yeah, we think this is the guy for you. And so yeah, he told me, hey, we're gonna introduce you to him, and then he said, hey, do you mind coming down to Florida? And I said, okay. So
Never refuse a trip to Florida.
so the Trump family is a huge supporter of the Navy SEAL Museum and the Navy SEAL Heritage Foundation. The Trump family does so much for veterans as a whole, and specifically for special forces, Navy SEALs. They have a special place in their heart to help out. And so, President Donald Trump was hosting a celebrity golf tournament to help raise money for this particular program. And so I went down there for the golf tournament.
And you were meeting some for lack of a better word, high political people or
there was
some celebrities.
There were some celebrities there,
and they didn't know who they were, wondering who you were.
Right. And I got introduced to somebody, and I was like, very nice to meet you. What do you do for a living? And he kind of turned his head to the side and he said, I play baseball. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm like, who do you play for? It's like the Boston Red Sox. Like, okay, but I don't watch much sports, but he was a very nice guy.
Yeah.
And I appreciate all the people there that, support the Trumps and support the Navy SEAL Museum and the Navy SEAL Heritage Foundation. Just is a great group of folks. And so, yes, that is when I got introduced to Utah, met him there. I got to meet Eric Trump, visited with him for, I don't know, 30 minutes. And I don't know if you're aware, but he's very, very knowledgeable marksman, avid hunter. I believe he loads his own ammo as well, custom loads, and just a great guy to just chat with, man. I really enjoyed chatting with Eric. I met Laura, and I met Don Jr. Don Jr. is a very, very busy guy, but he still had time to come in and say hello and get a picture with me in Utah. Very appreciative of all of them. I wasn't able to get a one-on-one picture with the former president, but he was there. He addressed all of us. He's he's a character in person, and just a great human being. And I mentioned this to you earlier. Is I could tell you a story about Mo. We mentioned him earlier,
right?
Or a number of other stories, and it could be difficult and it could be emotional, and,
right.
And you would tell that it would be difficult for me to recite some of that, and then you think of, and that would be like in a one-on-one,
right.
Private conversation. And then you think about, President Donald Trump getting up just last night in a live audience and then televised in front of millions of people, talking about what happened on Saturday with the helmet and the jacket of the fireman that was killed at his rally.
Yeah.
And with the composure that he had and the message that he presented, and you could tell the sincerity, and because I met him in person, he's a genuine dude. He's definitely a GSD, man.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we can get him on the show.
Maybe we can get him on the show.
We'll have you in Utah reach out to him. No, but I think it's great that the Navy SEAL Foundation and the Navy SEAL Museum, is that what it's called? Navy SEAL Museum?
That's correct.
Organization, that they were able to connect you with Utah, because clearly, now I've met you a couple times, and each time I've met you, you've been with Utah. Actually, one time you were not with Utah, and you actually ended up leaving. You're like, I got to go. I got to be with Utah. I think it's great that those programs are out there for veterans. And as the commander of the VFW in Carmel, Indiana, we have a lot of auxiliary members that do so much work, and we have a couple people that have dogs that will go and see veterans to help them cope with whatever kind of situation they might be in. But the organizations that are actually placing dogs, because these dogs are very expensive.
Oh yeah,
let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah,
I mean, even at a low dollar end, they're expensive. I mean, they cost more than cars do.
Absolutely.
So I think that's great. And I didn't want to get into we don't need to get in a story about a campaign or why they did it or what at the end of the day, the organization knew what your needs were, and then they helped you.
Yeah. And
now you're sitting here having a beer, and Utah only ate one cord, Justin. I think that's pretty good.
And Darin, I must say, because
the other cord's so close to his mouth, and he's looking at me with those eyes, because he can kill me, that dog. He's like, oh yeah.
And Darin, I must point out that he comes out of Baden K9, which is
in Canada, right?
It's up in Canada.
Yeah.
And
tell me the name one more time.
Baden, Baden.
Okay.
And going up to the farm, as they call it,
Yeah.
is just an incredible experience. Just being up there on the farm, it's peaceful. The message that they give you, and the training, some of the training is not fun at all.
No, for you.
For the both of us,
Because you train with the dog.
You do it together. In fact, that's how
You bond.
Well, it's how you bond, and it's also how he got his nickname, the Dude, because there was a Navy SEAL there with his Belgian, and then me with Utah, and we're doing this exercise thing they put us in, and it was horrible, right? and he quit. Utah quit in the middle of it, so we're like crammed in this really tight space, and I'm on top of him, and you can't give out any commands, because if he hears you, if the instructor hears you give a command, then he'll make you start over. So I'm like laying on top of him wedged in this little space. And I'm like, dude, come on. You're embarrassing me. You're embarrassing me in front of the SEAL. Let's go, man.
Let's go.
But we made it through the obstacle. I just had to lead the way out because he was not going first through this little obstacle they had set out for us.
He's like, hell no, Dad. They're like, I'm not your dad yet.
That's actually funny you say that, because that movie I mentioned to you earlier with Aaron Eckhart, I believe it's called Canine. It's a really good movie. But there is a scene where the dog is embarrassing. They're training together, and the dog is embarrassing Aaron Eckhart's character. And he leans down to the dog and he says, I don't know if he said dude, but he was like, you're embarrassing me in front of all these guys are standing around watching him. He's like, you're embarrassing me. Like the instructor's right there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
crazy.
That's great.
They got that right.
You were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. But you have to spend time with them.
Yeah.
You have to spend time every day doing a little bit of training with them.
I think we were talking about this earlier. It's like another language, right?
It is.
You use it or you lose it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have a highly trained service dog, but if you're not putting in the work either, then all of a sudden your service dog becomes lazy. And it's not the service dog's fault. No. It's your fault.
Right.
You know
Do you speak German to the dog?
Yeah.
Majority of the commands are in German, but there are some that are in English.
I feel like I've only heard you speak German to the dog.
There's a few English commands. Like I say, wait.
I haven't heard you say wait yet.
You must have just.
I haven't heard you speak English to that dog yet. Oh, that's awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for being on the show, and thank you, Utah, for coming. You're an awesome dog and a protector. I do have a little gift for you. And again, thank you for being a new sponsor for the show. K7 Ammo. We'll make sure we put all the credentials down. Everyday GSD 10. Go log into his site. Buy all the ammo you can. Recommendation: 2,000 rounds for every type of gun that you have.
Yes.
And we'll get on your merch girl to do an Everyday GSD patch for his for his harness.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Kelly Anderson, she's awesome. And actually I'll connect you with her just in general for maybe some of your merch if you want. But anyway, she's an awesome, she's an everyday GSer. She's supposed to be on the show, but she keeps dipping and diving because she doesn't want to brag about how badass she is. But anyway, I do have a hat for you and a shirt.
Perfect.
And it's an everyday GSD shirt because you are a true everyday GSDer. And then we'll take some pictures after. So I'm just going to lean over like this.
Perfect.
Hand it over to you.
Thank you, sir.
We're almost done, Utah. We're almost done, buddy. And I got a hat over here for you too.
Sweet.
And again, seriously, man, you're awesome. First of all, thank you for 31 years, and thank you for fighting for our country. Thank you for being a Green Beret. Thank you for everything you've done, and thank you for sharing your story with us. And I'm looking forward to having a drink after the show with you.
Outstanding.
Thank you.